Hey guys, my name is Xavier Foley, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the importance in keeping the big idea strong. Now, what do I mean by that? Here's a metaphor. So, when you're watching a documentary, typically what happens is you will watch a documentary on one subject. So, for example, World War II. Let's say you click on a video that says World War II documentary. You start watching it, and 5 minutes later, the documentary switches to cars, right? For some reason, 5 minutes into the documentary, you start seeing cars and stuff and it has nothing to do with World War II. What happens is the audience gets frustrated because they expected to see a video about World War II, but the filmmaker, for some reason, decided to switch the idea to a car documentary. So you can imagine the frustration for the audience. Now, take this same scenario and apply it to music. It's the same thing. So when you're writing a piece where you have a theme, right? And for some reason the composer switches the theme to something completely different and doesn't restate that theme, it's the same idea for that documentary where the filmmaker switched from the World War II theme to the car documentary. It's the same idea. So it's really important to keep the main idea strong in a piece. So here's an example of a piece I wrote called Irish Fantasy. This version is for solo double bass. And let me play it a little bit for you. So this will be the computer generated version. You can actually find the live performance version on my YouTube channel. Just search Irish Fantasy. But here's the computer generated version. It's not going to sound good, but you will get the idea. So here it is. Okay, so what you just heard was a lot of things. But the important thing was there was a lot of restatement of the same idea. Say, so let me play the theme first. Okay. Okay, stop right there. So just take note of this first line here. Okay. So this is an idea right here. Now what happens next is I restate it, but there's a little variation to it. Okay, so let's listen to the next line. Okay, so the only difference between this first line here and the second line here is that I changed the last bar of the statement just a little bit. So here's the statement. Here's what it sounds like for the first time. And here's what it sounds like the second time. Okay, so let me play that again. So it's the first idea. The second idea. Restate it. Variation on the last bar. So it sounds like an ending. But this piece is 5 minutes. And the idea of me composing this piece was to make it somewhere around 5 minutes. So, by the way, this is based on a folk song, right? So really, what you're hearing in this beginning section of this first page is based on a folk song called The Clergyman's Lament. Okay, so a lot of this is the original composer's doing. And what I'm doing here is I'm adding a lot of double stops. So a lot of these double stops are not in the original folk tune. So that's something that I'm doing as part of this mix between an arrangement and a composition is I'm adding double stops. But still, keeping the main idea strong. Okay, so let's listen to it again. Okay, your statement. All right, repeat that all over again. But the thing I'm doing different here is I'm doing a little variation again so I don't bore the audience, right? I mean, it is important to restate the idea twice just so people get the idea. But it's also nice to vary the second repeat just a little bit, you know? So. So no double stops. A little embellishment there. Okay, check this out. Right, so this is all based on this idea right here. All right, this is the section with a lot of double stops, and I repeat that same section, but I do less double stops. There's still some double stops, but I do less of them, and I do some embellishments here, and I do a really big embellishment here. So an embellishment is like a flourish, right? So it's just a lot of extra stuff. So a lot of old composers would do stuff like trills, and that would be considered an embellishment if they did it like the second time of the statement. So, all right. So next, what I do is well, again, remember this is based on a folk song. So the original composer, Turlo O'Carolan, who's a blind harpist, he does something a little different the second time right here. And he restates the idea again. And me as a composer, what I do when I arrange this first page based off the folk song is I add chords to it. Okay, this wasn't there. More chords. More chords. So a little variation. A lot of chords here. So I think I will end this video here. So again, this video is about keeping the idea strong. And remember, if you have a theme, sometimes, okay, listen here. I'd highly recommend you restate the idea and do variations of it. And if you're going into another section, it's always nice to go back to the main idea. So this video is about keeping the idea strong, and make sure to stay strong. I don't know. I'm going to edit that out.